Okay, welcome everyone to the July 28th MicroProfile Live Hangout Working Group Edition. So this meeting, we are going to discuss working group topics. So a link to the meeting minutes is in the notes. So please click on the link, add your name to the list of contributors, and the group you're with, organization you're with is optional. Let's see here. Does everyone share responsibility to take notes? I'll do my best today because I'm going to be kind of punting a lot of these discussions off to other people to lead today. So awesome. So let's see here. I think, the chat will also be saved. So go ahead and chat, but just realize that the chat text will be saved along with the YouTube video, which will be, of course, uploaded to YouTube. All right. Thanks, everyone. And I think with that, I don't think I forgot anything. We will go to the first topic.
Hold on a second. Before we go into
it. Yeah, okay.
You need to share a screen. And Ruslan, the board, the space is yours for like 2 minutes. Tell us who you are. Don't expect everyone here to know how awesome you are.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you very much for the warm introduction. And again, thank you for having me here on the call. So my goal on this call to understand how the group is working. So, and how, for example, we can be helpful in this process. Specifically, I was invited by David to help move forward this group. I don't know if we are powerful enough to help. I want to figure out, first of all, this point, and to understand like how elastic experience can be useful in the MicroProfile development. So a little bit about my background. I have about more than maybe 20 years of Java experiences. I'm a Java champion, and I founded company which is developing platform as a service and targeting Java as one of major part of our customer. The name of the company is Jelastic. It's acronym for Java Elastic. So we contributed some code to OpenJDK and to make it elastic. Actually, now it's elastic and it can consume less RAM. So maybe we can help in MicroProfile as well. So that's the goal again, like to ask questions, to understand how the group works, and like to figure out what we can do as the next steps.
All right, awesome. Welcome. I probably hacked the notes as you were talking, so feel free to correct anything that's incorrect. Okay, so thank you very much for joining. The notes? Oh yeah, normally, see, that's the one thing I forgot. Let me do that right now. Share the screen. Thank you, David. I'm looking for the right, here we go, Chrome. All right, there we go. Okay, so now I'm switching monitors here. So you're going to see me looking all over the place because I have like 3 or 4 monitors. All right, so yeah, feel free to take a look at the notes and maybe put in your own words if you'd like, kind of what you stated earlier. Okay, so now there's a discussion going on in the Google group, which I'll pull up here in a second, on user group participation in MicroProfile. So Vincent, you had started with kind of some questions. You want to give a brief review and kind of where you think we are?
Yeah, so I'd asked Paul Buck, using rather flowery language, whether or not Jugs could be involved in the working group, to which he said yes. I also raised the point about fees for nonprofit members. I didn't expressly ask about whether Jugs could be one of the 5 initial members of the working group, but somebody else did further in the thread, to which Eclipse came back and said, yes, that's absolutely possible, pending joining Eclipse and joining the ESF and satisfying what any other stipulations they may have around that and around being committers. So my thoughts are that that conversation, although not concluded, is overarchingly positive. And then I get a sense that there is no real objection from the ESF for jugs to either join the working group or join the working group as one of the 5 members needed to move the working group out of incubation, out of its current phase.
That's the read that I got. I also noticed the clarifying statement of when you apply for a membership, you should fill out that you are a corporation below 10,000, below 1 million and 10 employees, if that's applicable to you. So it sounded like the 5K concern is gone, and jugs would be encouraged to join at the 1,500 level. So that seems like also really good progress.
Yeah, the reason that I brought up the question around non-profit payments is that, for the sake of argument, if a jug is a non-profit and has under 1 million in revenues, then technically they should pay $5,000 because that's what non-profits need to pay. Doesn't make sense. However, there's really no, for example, our jug is a registered non-profit. We don't really need to talk about that, frankly. Somebody asks us if we're incorporated, we say yes. So I don't think you need to necessarily state that you are a non-profit if you don't need to, if that makes sense.
Seemed to be what I read in the email.
Yeah.
While you're
so I'm unmuting, sorry. Just to make sure I got these minutes right, jugs can join as long as they meet the working group participant requirements, right? So they can. $1,500 to join as a company under $1 million, and they do count toward the working group membership requirement, correct?
They can count towards the work.
Yes.
I wouldn't say they do. I would say they can. That was my read from the conversation.
Well,
that's a very small difference in words, but
yeah,
it's probably very important.
What would decide whether they do or don't if they can?
I think it's if they meet all the other stipulations around being a MicroProfile, an ESF committer.
So that part, I do want to say, the question was asked by Scott. Would the jugs count as one of the 5? Minimum requirement is 5. MicroProfile can go 7, 10, it doesn't matter, to come out of incubation. And that was a really important question because the answer is yes. Jugs can count, and we need to write it out, can count as one of the minimum 5 to get MicroProfile under or out of incubation. Because the difference is that, sure, in the future, jugs can join, but I read it not only in the future, but actually now under incubation, jugs can join, if invited, can join, and be a part of one of the minimum requirements to get us out. This is how I read it.
Who's Anonymous Coyote?
That's correct, by the way. Whoever the anonymous coyote is.
That's David.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that's the thing, was when I try and listen and take notes at the same time, it can be challenging. So the wording isn't always the best. Okay, so that's kind of where we are. So it sounds like we've met the 5 working group member requirement in order to form the working group. There's still the, and we have to, verify this all with the Eclipse Foundation more directly, but this is a good thread, right? I agree with Vincent on that. And actually, I don't want to get to the next funding topic yet, because I think Amelia's got some discussions around that going on. But this was all a really good and positive conversation, I agree.
John, I have a clarification here. We need to add into the minutes that the minimum requirement is 5, but it doesn't mean the MicroProfile will just hit the 5. MicroProfile can choose to have 6, 7.
Sure. There's no, no
we,
match.
we need to write it in there that the minimum requirement is 5, but MicroProfile is likely to go more than that. It's just that you just need to get out of it. Because sometimes if we are not clear on saying the minimum 5, we will be stuck with maybe not including someone else that might be interested in joining as a founding member.
Yep.
So maybe in addition to that bullet point there, where it says can count towards 5 WG voting members, it should say can count towards 5 minimum WG voting members.
There we go.
Yeah, if we need that one. We need a single standalone line and also minimum. That's great point, Vince.
Yep.
Yeah, that would cover it, I think.
Yeah. And by the way, Vince, the thread that you started immediately after the working group, the community call last week, it's excellent and recorded. So,
before we leave because we're sort of on the necessary to get 5 working group members to leave incubation. You know, I think it is now a good time to you know, address any questions that Ruslan and Jelastic might have, you know, because the statement was said we should have 5 and we should now have 5 to go to graduate. I just want to make sure that that is true. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I did kind of clarify a little bit, saying we have, of course, have to, you know, have the more formal conversation with the Eclipse Foundation, but it doesn't look like there's any limitation in terms of you know, membership minimum levels being, you know, a limitation that we had in the past. It isn't anymore, but I agree. We're not looking for just 5, right? We want I think a diverse community of participants, and that's why I'm really glad to see Ruslan on the call.
Yeah. So do we want to field any questions right now, or is that later in the agenda?
You know, okay, so the 2 items we have, first is a thread by Amelia on the first year fee exception, and the second one is Paul made a couple of comments around on the charter itself. Right. So, you know, we could either, I'm open to either approach, taking questions now or going through a little bit more discussion with these other ones and then taking questions. I'm okay either way.
What do you want to do, Ruslan?
Okay, so look, I will follow whatever you say at the first meetings, because like you roll the meeting. But yeah, in general, I just want to understand: do we have 5 or not already? Because that's not very clear for me. So
yeah,
just
it's not clear. You know, so we, you know, it's not clear. So you know, we would still need you, and yeah. So you know, repeat some of your questions about what it is that is in your guys' thoughts and stuff like that.
Yeah, look, if you need our involvement and it's necessary to move this group, I mean, like to escape incubator, as I understand. So we can give our support. We have different options to move forward. I will need to clarify probably with Eclipse Foundation how to make it properly, because our structure is quite it's not simple, I would say. We have different group of resellers, so I would not say that Jelastic is a one big corporation. It's a group of different companies in different countries. We have partners across the globe in 36 countries. So some of them are big guys, some of them are small guys. Even Jelastic have several companies, as just, you know, like product companies that work on the product. So we can even go with 2 companies if we want, like, but with smaller level of revenue. I just need to understand, okay, what exactly do you expect from us? And yeah, if like only one company, okay, we can go with 2. Like probably we can help as well.
Yeah, I would say 1 is fine, and okay. You know, and yeah, so you know where we definitely need you is that can count towards the minimum of 5. So, you know, we're still susceptible to curveballs that could leave us not able to graduate. And we absolutely do need to be confident we can get 5 no curveballs.
Okay.
So it would be absolutely critical to have you.
Okay, no problem.
If you guys are able and willing, you know, to join.
Yeah, about contribution, if you can ask, sorry for interruption. This contribution, how the money will be used, let's say, like, so what is it, let's say, like, people commit like 5,000 or 25,000 or like 1,000 and half, like, how it influences the future in general. Like, so, because
yeah,
I believe again, like, taking into account our structure, it can be different some, but you can definitely count like as the one company from our side, but how we will move forward, I will have to clarify with Eclipse Foundation, I believe.
Yeah, so I think your question was how does the money get used once allocated?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so the Eclipse Foundation fees are separate from working group fees.
Okay.
So the money that you would spend to join the Eclipse Foundation uses to fund the foundation in general, all the open source projects and everything.
But hold on a second, and we need to be specific. Sorry to interrupt here. Ruslan, the question is, there are 2 fees. There is one to become a member of the Eclipse Foundation.
What I was explaining.
Yeah,
that is
David explained me this on the last call, so I understand, like, it's like double.
Solutions is the minimum requirement to join a working group. And
no,
that is,
no problem yet.
Yeah.
Was I going too slow for you?
A little bit. Be honest.
So there are.
You don't mention solutions memberships as the minimum. You're very vague. Be specific, because we're talking about contracts and memberships. So use the names. If you do that, then it's clear, because this is being recorded. That's
Okay.
it.
So there's the solution membership for joining the Eclipse Foundation in general, solution or greater. And that dollar, those funds are annual, and they go towards funding the Eclipse Foundation in general. They are not available to be spent by the MicroProfile working group.
Right.
The actual working group fee, which is the second dollar amount, that is available to be spent by the MicroProfile working group. We should reasonably expect that the first year's fees will largely be dedicated towards legal, setting up the working group. We do not yet have participation agreements. Those typically get drafted when the working group is formed, and then people are asked to then, you know, sign the then drafted participation agreement. And of course, that gives you the opportunity to say, I don't like the agreement, and that can be done too, because legal is coming out of the budget. In terms of subsequent year budgets, it's something that we've stated very clearly, is that we want to maintain a very low cost working group. We aren't looking to take on permanent headcount or anything like that under our budget, and so as members join and more money becomes available, we intend to reevaluate the membership costs such that maybe they could be lowered. You know, but aside from that, you know, what the working group spends the money on is of course up to the working group. So you would have a vote in that as well, and so you know, so would the jugs, and so would all the companies. We would decide that together.
And also the community.
Yeah,
Clearly.
so let me clarify my question. I was just trying to understand if like specific amount is necessary to move the whole project forward, like, right? Or it just doesn't matter, like, you know, because sometimes you cannot do stuff without money at all, let's say, right?
Right.
And sometimes you can just contribute your like code and work, like, and it's enough for like certain success.
Right. Like, for example, if we got 5 jugs to start the working group and nobody else, then we would have an available, available amount of money that is like $7,500, and it's not enough to clear the legal that we would need to start the working group at all. So,
Okay.
so we do need, you know, a little bit larger people to join as well in order to really fund the legal required to launch the working group.
For the first year, we need
For
to
the
write
first-
the contracts. For the first
The-
year, it's not an ongoing.
David, can we summarize it as the budget is not clarified yet?
There's not what?
It's not clarified yet. It's not defining, let's say, budget.
Ruslan, this is a perfect question. John, can you please click in the agenda below? There is a budget draft that we started, I started to work on. Budget fees, go a little bit lower. Thank you, John. Go lower. This was memberships, below memberships. There, the budget. We, while working on the charter, we have a draft. Okay, if you click the here, it will give you exactly the copy paste that I wrote under the charter that doesn't need to be in the charter. Oh, no, it needs to be the, sorry about that, John. It needs to be one of the, the contributions crude draft. Something that is not, that is contributors. I'm sorry. That is contributors that we need to talk about it today also. Let's go to the previous, I guess I had the wrong link. The thing is, Ruslan, we have an idea of the budget for 2020 that is legal, and I have a draft. It has to be in the lower minutes under the last call, John. Sorry about this. I copy the, but anyway, the draft is there, and it tells you that it will be spent on legal, on infra. There is a maintenance. In infra, we have to pay some infra because we run the TCK, right? MicroProfile runs the TCK. What?
Don't run that here.
No, oh, there you go. Something less. But we do have Zoom as this calls, and we have been nicely using Eclipse one account to have a few of the calls so that it's controlled. Then there is a mass maintenance fee yearly that is charged by the Eclipse Foundation for to all its working groups. So while I talk, someone grabs the minutes, I'm going to go into the minutes and find the document, and I will share it here. So after this call or through this call, you can go and see an idea that the first year will be different because it uses most of the legal, but future, and trademarks also, trademark. We need to trademark MicroProfile. But in the future, the legal fees are lower, so then we can use it for branding and marketing activities. That doesn't mean that we will create, you know, we will bring booths and things like that. It means that any MicroProfile tends and will aim at continuing to push MicroProfile branding to protect and thank its community. That means users and coders alike, anyone that contributes. You get a t-shirt, you get like stickers, you get hoodies, all these things, but it has to be strategic. It's not just because you showed up, you get this. It's just like to say thank you. Hey, we notice you, this kind of thing. So the marketing side can wait while we tackle the first year, what matters, depending who comes on board as a minimum 5, right? We will not go into marketing when we have to take the legal costs and the other items. We must find first what are the minimum requirements. Okay.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much. It's very helpful, definitely. So if we join, probably we can help with some cost efficiency as we work with different countries. So we understand how to, you know, find cost efficient lawyers, like in infrastructure and so on and so on. Just, you know, like we can discuss this later. But in general, I got the idea of the budget, and it's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Yes, I will add it to the minutes. So thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Well, I would just say you said cost-efficient lawyers. We would have to use the Eclipse Foundation lawyers. They have to use their.
Okay. No problem. No problem.
But in terms of infrastructure and other costs, you're absolutely correct in that we want to donate those things rather than purchase them with the budget, right? So, you know, right now, the MicroProfile logo, both of them have been donated. Nobody was paid through a budget to create them. The website currently runs in WordPress, and AWS, and you know
Okay.
that
I understand.
like Red Hat contributes the infrastructure for start.microprofile.io. Tommy Tribe contributes to infrastructure for regular microprofile.io. And we've all kind of purchased shirts ourselves. And so we do intend to keep the project running lean by all of us contributing resources to make it operate. Rather than
Well, that's the
contributing-
current intent, but once we form a working group and we have lots of voting members, we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. That's the intent,
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, if intent is good, like I don't think, you know, somebody will vote against. If somebody donates something, like, right, it's fine, I believe. Yeah. So there are
I mean,
smart people.
What I find interesting about what
Yeah.
Ruslan is, you know, with Gelastic is another perspective. I mean, I hope that Gelastic gets engaged in some of the specs if there's something that's interesting, or decides if there's something missing in the cloud, you know, in the hosting and cloud space, right? If there's specs that would go there that would help with application portability and microservices and stuff. To me, that's a door I would love to see open, if it makes sense, right?
Definitely.
So, yeah.
If you're open to listen, we can share a lot of feedback about real, you know, like experience of smaller guys, because I believe like larger corporations, they work with enterprises and they hear like feedback from the big guys, but we forget about like smaller guys, like, you know, startups, you know, like ISVs, smaller guys. And yeah, like if we don't hear them, like we just lose new blood. So people will not come to Java, like, because it's expensive, like, or it's not, you know, it's hard to understand, like, and so on.
Okay, so yep. Yeah, I look forward to those conversations. I'm going to try and move on. Yeah, one of my jobs here is to try and keep the ball moving. I've been a little bit neglectful and trying to maybe move things along, because I'm not sure how long these next two are going to take. I would like to try and address them both today. So Amelia, you've got an action item. I'm sorry, a topic. First year fee.
Yes. Can you click it, John? And thank you again for sharing the screen so we can see. I just sent this morning a reply to Paul. The question was, can MicroProfile be exempt? So Paul replied, and he said the MicroProfile is a special, atypical is the word he used. And the goal of this, he named two projects. Jakarta first year fee was skipped. And aside from the three projects he mentioned, there are other two projects that are new working groups under Eclipse. They have skipped their first year. He is correct that MicroProfile has been running under the Eclipse Foundation, pushing releases for 3 years and a half. If we include February 2020 with 3.3 release.
We're 4 years old, however.
What is it?
Yeah, we're 4 years old.
Yeah, we're 4 years old, but we have been running releases under the Eclipse Foundation for 3.5 years. So this is nothing new. We will not be work or a debt to the Eclipse working group team. So we go into the next one. I think David followed on this reply. John, can you go follow? And everyone is reading, I imagine. So then we, once again, David, do you want to go into this one?
I haven't caught up on this thread, so I don't feel comfortable discussing.
I will follow up
on a recording.
I will follow up. So then David asked the questions you see. There will be no headcount under marketing or branding. We don't need to help increase Eclipse Foundation human capital, and we don't need to run marketing and branding. We don't need help running MicroProfile marketing or branding, because thus far in 4 years, we have proven that we can be lean, that we can have a booth, that we can do all the things that a regular project and actually company could do without heavy requirement of budget. We are very lean, to the point that at one point we had templates asking partners if they wanted to participate and donate from 250 to 500 to 1,000 into t-shirts if we were going to have a booth. It's optional. So now we will be much more organized under the working group, but we don't need to add that budget, that discrepancy that I call it. So then we say the logo. That is the other part of the logos and the trademarks. So we plan MicroProfile like it did with the MicroProfile logo that is today and everything else. We plan the community to continue to own that responsibility. We are aware of the Eclipse Foundation trademarks, guidelines, and everything else. Anything that goes into legal that is putting a mark, a new mark, like MicroProfile has not been trademarked, that will require legal, and the budget from the working group will be used for that. Anything else that we might create as a community will follow those standards and pay the Eclipse Foundation to handle that because we need to use their lawyers. So then Paul sent a reply to David's, and he used, you know, he brought the guidelines and all these things. And MicroProfile, there is a clarification. MicroProfile doesn't need to abide to the 3 years commitment like the Jakarta Working Group has to. The Jakarta Working Group has a headcount that is enormous for a open source project, but it is because it has 18 years of JSRs and it seems that it needs that much of human support, not reliance on the community. It is their choice. It is a choice. MicroProfile will not, if you were to sign Ruslan in any of the JACs, Chicago, Atlanta, New Jersey, if you were to sign on board, you will only need to sign each year. That means that when the invoice arrives, you agree to pay whatever the fees are. There is no commitment to 3 years because we don't have resources, human resources to deal with. That is a fix. It makes any project be not nimble. That is the whole point under the charter and one of the points of the goals of MicroProfile that we aim at protecting. So then follow up, John, and the next one, I replied before this call to Paul, and I asked 4 questions. So I went and I said, why would the Eclipse Foundation be required to approve the ongoing budget of the MicroProfile working group? I am assuming that after we are done with the first year that is heavy legal, MicroProfile will have full control, as is stated in the charter, to adjust its fees to make sure that it continues to welcome any organization. That means that we will make it not only valuable, but cost effective. And I asked, isn't it the job of every working group under the Eclipse Foundation to own how nimble, agile, or how heavy they want to be? So that are the 2 questions. And then I ask, the other question here is, it is stated in the charter, we will likely change our fees every year or whenever necessary. As we were to gain 20 members, that will definitely increase more money. And to use the money means that we need to be responsible and accountable and transparent on how we use it. If there is no value on us just keeping busy, we will decrease the fees because it makes sense, because that is open source and that is accountability. That is, I go into the following, the talks about the trademarks and legal. We understand this, and I say +1 because MicroProfile has not been trademarked. And then there is the maintenance fee that Eclipse Foundation charged, and I call it a tax fee, but it's actually a maintenance fee for all its working groups. It's usually 10–15%, but we want in writing Paul to tell us what it is, and this is the goal in here. And then once again, we remind the Eclipse Foundation what we have written in the charter. We have said we will not help Eclipse hire anyone to be dedicated for marketing or branding in MicroProfile. We will not take away from the community who has done a great job for the 4 years to do the work. And that's it. This is my follow-up. That's it.
All right, so I mean, I haven't seen this. I haven't read the replies. I have to look at it a little bit more in context. So, you know,
ongoing.
there are some philosophies, you know, that we have around, you know, trying to maintain low cost. Again, these philosophies may be adjusted over time depending on what the working group wants, right? The fees may go down, and we do a lot of contributions based, like we have been. David talked to that, or they may maintain the same, or they may go up, right? That's up to us as working group members, right? And what we want to accomplish within the working group itself. So the Eclipse Foundation does have a core set of costs, right? Legal we mentioned, and working groups have Eclipse Foundation representation as well, right? So we get a chunk of Paul's time, for example, and they need to participate in the working groups to make sure that we're following the Eclipse guidelines, right? And this is true for every working group. So, so there are some costs associated with that. So those are very good points.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then around the trademarks and branding usage, I got to read up a little bit more on that before I can understand what the costs might be in doing that. From the formation.
There's a quick comment on that particular point, because I think there may be a miscommunication here, is that in Paul's response, it says that we intend to permit non-working group members to use the compatibility logo. And I think there's continuous confusion that we do not want to use the main MicroProfile logo as the compatibility logo. And we could introduce a second logo that just simply has compatible underneath of it.
We already have it created. It needs to be voted, or we need to do a vote. But
hold on.
Yeah.
We could simply create a second logo that has compatible under it, and that's the compatibility logo that's treated just the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is no additional legal cost with being different. Simply that the main MicroProfile logo does not imply compatibility and is free to be used everywhere. The compatible logo would just be a new one we make up, and it could be regular and not incur additional costs. What are the people's thoughts on that topic?
Well, the general philosophy that I think behind this, David, I knew that you kind of began thinking about this a long time ago. I'm going to try and reiterate it, which is basically Jakarta, or Java EE, specifically Java EE, lost a lot of opportunity by having a logo that basically applied only to compatibility. But when you have, 300 frameworks out there, Java frameworks, each using a little piece of Jakarta or Java EE, I'm going to stick to Java EE history, using, whether it's servlet or JAX-RS or whatever, right? They'd use a piece of Jakarta or Java EE. And we as in the Java EE community never got any recognition of that, right? So the idea is that this logo could be used potentially by frameworks that, consume MicroProfile, aren't necessarily compatible with it specifically, but they consume as a whole platform, but they might consume a spec or two. That's worthy of a logo. They might, usage around Java user groups that support MicroProfile, right? That would be another case, an interesting case to use a MicroProfile logo, right? So it's trying to get the MicroProfile brand far and wide.
Yeah. And John, the nicest thing is that we have been thinking about it since we started to work on the working group. There is a Git issue under the Git marketing that has the light item so that we will not be locked in, and we will make it so that users out there in organizations like orgs, like John mentioned, feel protected and feel acknowledged, because adaptability is something that we care about. And it's very hard to track anyone that uses MicroProfile. But if someone chooses to use this particular logo that we can create, and we have already started some drafts to bring to the community when necessary, for everyone to send their drafts, to designs, to vote. That is how we do everything in MicroProfile. That would be super helpful. So I think on the follow-up, that would be a nice reminder.
Yeah, well,
I
just want to confirm that there are no objections to us creating a second logo that is for compatibility, are there? Such that we can keep the main logo free, and we don't have to do the legal work that Paul is suggesting, because we're not looking to use that as the compatible logo in any way at all. It is just a logo. People can use it for jugs. People can use it for projects that like MicroProfile, you know, but it's not only for implementations of MicroProfile to use. We could make a separate logo for that fits in perfectly with the predefined bucket. It doesn't incur any additional cost because it's the same.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, you know, from my experience of working at Oracle and running things like the, you know, Java Champions program and having an understanding of some of the restrictions corporations like that have around the usage of the Java logo, it's really important to have something like this that the community can use it well, you know, for any reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, from my perspective, having a dual brand approach like this as a requirement to form the working group, I'm not sure what's required for the actual formation. So can we say, you know, let's see, do we have to pay for the cost of the compatibility logo in
No,
order to form the working group?
no, John, this is one thing. We, MicroProfile, don't want to give the power to someone else to create something when we can do it
That's
ourselves.
not the question necessarily, though, but they still have the legal, they
They
still
have to
have to review it and approve it. They have to.
And then
So
trademark.
that's yes, that's my point.
Yes.
Is
That's
what I don't
great.
know is if that has to be in place, the approved trademark for the formation of the working group.
So the
Because we are
question,
a spec that
Yeah.
deals with compatibility.
so the question needs to be sent to the forum and ask not about having Eclipse team create the logo, but about is this required? Is having a compatibility logo required to take MicroProfile out of incubation and make it explicit in that email that we don't need Eclipse to create a logo. We will do it ourselves. Clearly, trademark, Eclipse has to approve it and trademark it. And that is what we need to know. Who wants to own that email in this call?
I'll follow up because I mean, I asked the question, right? So
fantastic. So
that's why I just wanted to talk to everybody just to make sure that there's just, I'm not talking.
The question I have is it going to be easier to do this now than at a later phase during the project? The kind of thing where if you say, well, we're going to do this at this point to get out of incubation, is it easier to get this thing done at this stage than it would be at a later stage?
Right.
We do not know.
Well, I'm assuming it would
it's
be
a good question.
But we can ask.
We will ask. Vince, one thing that when you said that, it totally synced on me, that though it will be super easy to spend 1 week for everyone to be super focused on the logo and voting and creating their own logos and then have another 2 weeks to vote. That is how we have done for the MicroProfile logo and everything else that is front facing. When I think about the release, MicroProfile 4.0 is being delayed. If this is optional and we can do it later, we will do it later because we want the release to go out. And
that's something we would have to discuss. I like the idea of kind of along with Amelia of let's try to move forward so we can get the MicroProfile moving forward in terms of getting 4.0 released in a 4.1 and a 4.2. I just don't know how long the trademark search and all that kind of stuff might last, right? Coming up with defining a logo.
It takes
a month, 2 months, whatever. Yeah. So it's a question. It's a good question, Vincent.
Yeah. So we don't have 3 months. 3 months will mean that we go into Q4 and we might still not have release 4 out. And if this is optional, let's do it after the release because we will have fun. This is branding. This is this is something that will stick with us for a very long time. So Bayo, you are going to send that email.
Well, also, I will just simply point out that the resources we need to make a logo that could be used as a compatibility logo are different resources than we need to do the actual release. You know, we can have Ryan draft up some things. You know, IBM, Red Hat, everybody else has design teams as well. They can submit some options. And, you know, we could be moving forward that because they're different people who make
Yes.
logos versus getting MicroProfile 4.0 out the door.
Yeah, but we need to know if the trademark is mandatory. And I don't think trademarks come later.
I don't think I need to be told it's mandatory to know it's something we're going to have to do definitely, and to just start working on it.
Yeah.
So let's hash this out on a Google group thread around, you know, figuring out how long do we think it'll take to create and get a trademark approved, and figure out if it's something that we can do in parallel. I just don't know, because we, you know, the funds have to be there in order for it to happen from the Eclipse side. From our side, we could start the logo, to your point, whenever we want.
Yes.
I have a quick question that
Mhm.
relates to funding, because you know, you just mentioned something, John, about funds. Is there anything in the ESF that precludes, and I don't know too much about this subject, but from MicroProfile having a GitHub sponsorships account? Maybe you got, this may be a very basic question, but I don't know. As a way to raise funds if necessary.
Don't know.
I don't know.
So
It hasn't come up. Interesting.
Vince, you're referring to GitHub now allows projects and individuals to add a page that says "Fund me."
Correct. And what my understanding is that whatever funding comes in from the community, Microsoft matches that.
It's true. That is true. That can be used by JAX and any organization that works under Git. So your question is valid. We have never done that in such a form, and this is something to consider when we think about budget, because in the MicroProfile IO website, we never added something that is available at the Eclipse Foundation and the Apache Software Foundation that says donate. Donate means that the money goes into the project itself and not the foundation.
Yeah, no,
and
this is nothing. This is
Yeah.
nothing to do with, you know, 4.0. It's just something that occurred to me. Seeing as we're brainstorming, you know, I thought I'd bring it up. Yeah,
I think it's something that we should maybe, again, follow up on in the Google group. I think it's an interesting idea. I was chuckling because I was just imagining, oh, great, now we can just cut our budget in half.
You know what?
I was just joking. That's not what it's supposed to be for, right? But anyway, it's an interesting idea.
You know, I want to say something. When we launched MicroProfile in June 2016, we already got sponsorships even before we thought that we would move to a foundation. We thought we got 100% support from infra providers. You know, we're talking about organizations that help with Jira, and MicroProfile infra costs were zero. Sadly, when we decided to move to find a foundation so that not only individuals, but also companies could work together and continue moving forward MicroProfile, we lost their support because they do not work under, you know, they cannot have it under Git. They, you know, everything is linked. There are all the applications. So I am saying this is something that I'm very passionate about. Someone can contribute $20, $25 as an individual contributor once off. That is valuable. That is a few t-shirts. That is something. How do you want your money to go? But anyway, time check. David is saying.
I'm trying to switch gears here. We're not going to finish off this topic. So I'm switching over to the charter.
It's
great. And I feel bad because I didn't read all of Paul's edits. I saw these first, like these first two, and I just never kind of kept scrolling down and realizing there was a couple more. So I apologize for not being entirely prepared on this particular one.
I did two only. John, you're not alone. I did only two.
Let's talk about them.
Yeah, so I'm going to make this a little bit larger here. Let's see, I think I can just get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so first topic. Fees are ongoing, right? There's a fee every year. There's a budget that addresses paying for some of these fees. Here it says this is a one-time fee. I
think that's just a holdover from our original idea.
Right. can we just delete this sentence and basically say we're done with it?
Yeah.
We're aware, I think we can. We're aware that our fees
Yep.
will be annual and we can adjust
Yep.
them annually.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say mark this as resolved. I'm going to delete this.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're proceeding with you with the knowledge that we can adjust them annually. Then
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that's-
There is no need to write anything on it.
Yeah. And Ruslan and anyone else that hasn't had a chance to read the proposal, I definitely recommend go back and take a look at it. Feel free to, ask
I
any
did it.
questions. What was that?
I did it before the call.
Oh, awesome. And I'm not sure if everyone has edit access right now, but feel free to ask questions in the Google group.
John,
Okay.
I think, John, we stopped that the last time we moved to V05. So
Yeah,
I
we
think
locked it down.
locked it. Can you, I still have access. 5 of us has access, edit access, but I think we need to open it to comments so that.
Well, I want to leave it off for comments right now, and just use the Google group, to be honest.
Okay.
Really trying to, I'm
Yeah.
really trying to get us to a point where we can move forward, right? Comments are welcome, but let's do it in the Google group if we can. The charter should include committer members, thus allowing individuals to participate in the specification project. So this is needed for the IP flows.
Yeah.
So basically what we're saying is, I think here, and it's tied to, I think maybe another comment down here, where we don't have, well, our committer membership as defined right now basically means all of the committers on any spec, right, basically can have a vote, and the outcome of that vote becomes the membership vote for, budgets and steering committee votes and stuff like that, right? Basically what Paul is saying is in reviewing the Eclipse bylaws and so on, really it has to be a person. And the way around this, and this is something that we had discussed as well, is, well, what we can do is go ahead and have one person be a representative of the community, and they're bound to they're basically bound to the outcome of whatever the committers vote.
We
So
said
let's
that
say-
we wouldn't do it.
Hmm?
John,
This is a new twist. So finish your sentence, John.
Yeah. So if we don't want to have committer members that we vote in, right, that represent the community, then what we could do is have all the committers, just like we do today, they vote. That vote has an outcome. Let's say we vote to approve the budget, right? The way it's defined now is that becomes a vote. What Paul is saying is you can't really do that because you have to have a committer member basically do a vote. So what we would say is, well, okay, we'll have a committer member that we elect or whatever, right? And that committer member is bound to the outcome of that vote. So if we all agree as individual committer members to pass the budget, then that committer member would then have to vote to pass the budget.
I understood.
What is the legal gap that requires us to have a named person?
It says IP flow, I think, and I don't understand the IP
It-
flow gap entirely.
Yeah, so it was actually Paul White that actually reviewed this to find out, and that's when they came back and just said that I'm not a lawyer, but they determined that they needed a person, that we can't just have this generic vote that came from somewhere.
But it's not, I mean, every single person's name who voted is recorded because they're all Eclipse committers. Like we have all,
Well, it's like the Electoral College, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that.
well, that I would want to make sure that it's not like the Electoral College in the sense that the person who we elect can vote differently than what the community votes, because that's how the Electoral
Yeah.
College works.
Well, that's the
yes.
problem with the Electoral College.
Yes. So,
I
Do you
have
know
a-
what I
So-
mean, right?
Yeah, that's basically, yes. That's basically what this Paul is saying here is basically that. It's like the Electoral College, right? What you could do is have that person vote the way the committers vote.
Yeah, but we could, you know, there's some states now where it's illegal for the electorate to vote differently than the outcome.
Right.
So you know, there can be language. If this is the case, we have to go down this route. There can be language in here about that.
I have a problem. We talked about this early on, I think January, February, and March on this, because this was when we go to memberships, I added committers as a third layer of membership. And when I see this, I do understand some of the comments, but I worry that the committers will have to vote each year for someone. So then that means
or we pick somebody from the vote. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah, listen to this. So not only that, now I think about it has to be a maximum time of running. You know, it cannot be to make your life that you will be the representative of MicroProfile committers. It needs to be shared. The responsibility needs to be shared across 2 different individuals. I don't believe that one suffices, because there are vacations and if we're talking about Europe, people take some month vacation, and that is unfair to put someone. Then I worry about the entitlement and the lack of calling out that will defer or diminish the committers' chance to speak up for themselves. Every single time something is delegated to someone else, there is this sense, and this is human nature, that we can chillax and can sit down and just warm out our seats and do not think, because we trust. And I want, I want us to be better than that.
We're over time, and no one's getting any chance to talk. So, you know, couldn't we just pick somebody from the people who voted to be the committer member for that vote? We don't have to do one person for the whole year.
Okay, so I'm going to step in here. Let's discuss these options in the Google group, and just because we're already over time, and you know, and I know we have lots of ideas. This is a good discussion. We do have to fill this, understand the gap, and probably fill the gap as well, right? Just based on legal counsel. So let's do our best to do that before the next call. The next call is in 1 week, same bat time, same bat channel, and we have a half-hour reserved for working group discussion topics. So let's reserve that for updating the charter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I apologize for cutting everyone short, lost track of time myself. So a little bit later today, this recording will be uploaded to YouTube. So see everyone hopefully in a week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining, Ruslan.
Thanks for
No problem.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.